Knowing how to price your Flower Mound home to sell is so important. It's a big deal. As a matter of fact, pricing is critical. So how do you know where to price it? You don't want to leave money on the table. You want to make the most amount possible so you can go put it on that next home that you want to buy, your dream home. So how do you come up with that magic number? Well, I'm Molly Chance, and I'm here with my husband, Bret Chance. And we've been helping people buy and sell home for over the last 2 decades. We've sold almost 120 million in properties, which means we've had a lot of experience,
Yes.
A lot of learning through this. And so we want to come and share with you the top 3 pricing mistakes that home sellers tend to make in the Flower Mound area. So let's jump right into this. What's the number one, or maybe just one of the 3 pricing mistakes that you see people make?
Really, the top mistake is not pricing the home to current Flower Mound market values. That's where the biggest mistake happens. And because, we know that, it's not based upon what the tax office says, what online estimates says, or, there's a lot of good meaning people out there, what your neighbor says, or, family members, things like that. It's surely market data from Flower Mound that comes straight off of the MLS. And the reason I say, as far as these estimates or any other online source, is Texas is a non-disclosure state, meaning that we cannot tell anybody what property is actually sold for unless we're having a real estate conversation of how to price it to sell. We're working with buyers of here's what the values are to help them construct a good offer on the deal and help them get the best deal possible. Now, also, that goes with the tax office. We cannot disclose to the tax office what properties have actually sold for, since we are that non-disclosure state. And so, it's really based upon what is really selling, not just within last year, where, for example, the tax office will say, well, they pull numbers for the last 2 years. Well, that's not real-time information. We're only looking, the last 90 days. It's very most 180 days. So that way we're getting real-time information on those numbers for sure.
Right. So the only ways that really the tax office or Zillow or whoever that is, the only way that they would have access to actual market data numbers is when you buy a home and the tax office will send you a letter and say, hey, we know you bought a home. Tell us, what you bought that home for and all about it. And that's the only way that they would know. You don't have to send that into them. It's so you know. Also, you can claim your home, say on Zillow, and tell them what you bought it for and all the features and upgrades. You don't have to do that either. So that's the only way they would have any kind of correct information. So we talked about basically how not to price your house. So then how do you price a home properly?
So far as how we really accurately price the home is we're looking at the total market conditions, because the thing is, when you go to sell a house, you've got comparable properties within your subdivision, your area, that we're looking at within, your square foot range, things like that. So that way we know, okay, what has sold, what is actually on the market, and what's under contract. So that way we can trend the market, because trending in the market is very huge. Is the values going up? Or are they going down? And that's a whole nother pricing strategy within and of itself. And then also we're looking at, how much competition is there? Because a lot of the homeowners don't understand, when you put your house on the market, you're entering into a competition to beat all, to win against all other homes that are for sale. So that's why, one key of this is making sure you're priced correctly from the get-go. Otherwise, it can definitely cause a lot of harm. And also the other thing is it a buyer's market or a seller's market? Then also pricing comes in with the condition of the property. What updates have been done? Are there extra features as far as, a swimming pool? Is it backed up to, an open space or a green belt, or does it have a golf course lot? There's a lot of variables with that as well. And then also just the location of it. We're talking about a golf course lot, or is it backed up to power lines or a busy street? Sometimes that can be a negative for the buyers, or even a school can be a negative or a positive.
Yeah, and I think also all these things kind of go together.
Yeah.
So say if it's a seller's market and your home is backed up to a busy street, I mean, it's not that hard to sell, right?
100%.
Because you have, not as many homes to sell, a lot of buyers competing for that one home. However, if you buy that home and then a few years later it turns into a buyer's market and you've got plenty of homes for sale and not enough buyers, all of a sudden those buyers can be a lot more choosy. And if they have a choice, they're not going to choose to buy that house on that busy street. Therefore, you're not going to be able to make as much money on that property. So there's a lot of nuances there.
Exactly, because, on the market conditions, when you don't have enough homes on the market for sale, that's when the buyers aren't as choosy. When you have more homes on the market for sale, then that's when the buyers are getting choosier. And as the market is changing, trying to go back to a more normal or balanced market, we're seeing the buyers are being a little bit more selective in what they're willing to do at this point.
True. However, we're still in the Flower Mound area. We're still in a seller's market as of right now. Now, it does change, price point to price point, neighborhood to neighborhood, the property type. Again, it all goes into where, you need to be really specific when you're looking at the property. You can't just make a blanket statement, a general statement, right?
Well, exactly. Because that's another thing as far as when you go into pricing of looking at what type of property we're selling. Is it a duplex? Duplex sold differently than a townhome. Townhome is sold differently than a single family home. And then, or is the house on an acre lot or on acreage?
Is it in a gated community?
A gated community. Those are all different markets that have different numbers and different supply and demand with that.
Yeah, and the luxury market really is its own market as well.
Yeah, every price bracket is its own market, no question about it.
So you mentioned pricing strategies. So what pricing strategies are there?
Well, there's really two main pricing strategies. First and foremost, a lot of people do this and with well-meaning, and I totally understand this, is they want to price it high to leave room for negotiation in order to help them to net or to make what they're wanting to make on the sale of the property. However, there's a lot of danger to do that. And as the market is changing, kind of go back to a more normal market, we're seeing the effects of that. And what the effects of that is that if you're pricing the property for some negotiation, that's exactly what you're going to get. And studies have shown that the homes that are sitting on the market longer than they should, from average days on the market, they're going to sell for less than market value. And that is a detriment to the seller. The other part of that is that a lot of people don't think about is the carrying cost of how much is it costing that homeowner every month to pay the mortgage, to pay the interest rate, the insurance, the taxes, the HOA fees, and the utilities and whatever other expenses are associated to that house. Every month you're losing that. So it's really good to go ahead and price it correctly.
Well, one other thing that that we've seen too, many times on the buyer side of things, if a buyer, even if they like that home, probably they're not even going to be seeing it, honestly, because it's out of the price range they're looking at, probably. But many times they will not want to go put an offer in because they do not want to offend that homeowner, and they think that they're just too far apart. So sometimes we'll hear sellers say, well, we'll just, somebody can throw an offer in that we'll look at. But what they don't realize is many times people won't, the actual people that could purchase that house, they won't even do that.
Exactly. Because that's even if you're lucky enough to even get to that conversation with the buyer. Because the buyers are so savvy today where everything is online. They know what market value is, even though they can't see, okay, a certain property sold for X price, but they can tell, okay, what properties are coming on, what's going off, what are the features and benefits, the condition that are supporting the price range that they're looking at. So they know pretty much what it is. And generally buyers are looking online for about 18 months before they can contact a real estate agent to help them go and buy that property. And when they do, generally they're looking at less than 5 to maybe 10 homes, and they're writing that offer because they know what they want and what they can do.
So then overpricing is one strategy.
Overpricing is one strategy. And the second strategy is pricing it at or below market value. And I know a lot of people cringe with that, they're thinking, hey, we're leaving money on the table. But hold on with that as far as explanation, because the thing of it is, when you overprice a property, only 10%, or if you overprice it by 10%, only 30% of the buying population is actually going to see it. And the reason for that is because regardless what price point a home is being sold at, and if you overprice it, the buyers in that upper price point are going to be expecting more features and benefits for whatever they're looking at. And if your property is not offering that, then they're not even going to, come and see the house. So you only got that 30% of the buying population you expose it to. Now, if you price it at market value, now you're exposing it to 60% of the buying population. Now, if you price it 10% below market value, then you're opening up to 75% of the buying population. So it's like when you go fishing, you put the bait and the hook right where the fish are and let that be a feeding frenzy. Let the buyers negotiate against each other, because it becomes a fear of loss to them. That's when you see at or above asking price or offers coming in on the home, and it puts the seller in the driver's seat of, hey, in top negotiating position, you can pick whatever offer that works best for you on the deal.
So basically, you're creating your own market. Whenever you price it at or just below market value, you create your own market. You're causing people to want to come. They see that value and they're saying, hey, that's a good deal. That home is priced well. It's awesome. We know there's going to be other people going to go for it. So they're going to put their best foot forward.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, the worst case scenario is you don't get multiple offers, but you do get one buyer on the deal, and that buyer will see that value in, go under contract. And one, it's going to be a solid offer, and two, they're really not going to be too nitpicky on the repairs on that, because they know they're getting a good deal because they've done their due diligence up front.
That's something that I will say that in our, years of doing this, we have found that people that, whether it's the homeowner, the seller, and the buyer, when they go in it with kind of a win-win mentality, like the people that go in and say, by golly, I'm going to cut this seller at the knees. I'm just going to take him for whatever he's got. I've got to get the best deal possible. That's a win-lose. And it always is. It's either very, very difficult. The whole thing, the whole transaction is either very difficult or it winds up falling apart. Mm-hmm. And if you have people that have the mindset of, hey, I'm willing to pay market value. I mean, nobody wants to feel like they're overpaying. However, like you've showed so many of our clients, you can show on paper, how if you look back at the real estate market and the values in Flower Mound, or actually, across Texas, most of Texas, those values just continue over time to go up. You're going to be in that house for, 3 to 5 years. Even back, we looked at the Great Recession.
Yeah.
And it only took about 3 years for everything to bounce back to normal. So if you stayed in that house for that 3 to 5 years, you're still okay. Like, you're not losing money. So to feel like you've overpaid, if you stay in the house, that appreciation is going to keep going up and you're going to be okay.
Exactly.
So let's talk about pricing mistake number 2.
Pricing mistake number 2 is what we call the $1 mistake that can really cost people thousands of dollars. And what I mean by that is, if somebody wants to list their house for $599,909.
$999.
Yeah, $999.
$599.
Yeah, exactly. So I know the psychology behind it. We all buy cars that way. We all buy, gasoline that way, thinking, hey, we're actually getting it for $500,000. Really, you're paying $600,000 for it. And the reason I say that's the biggest mistake, because when you do that, you're only exposing it to one group of buyer pools. Because when the buyers are searching online, they're searching in criteria boxes of, say, for example, a $20,000 increment. So if they're going from $580 to $600, okay, you've got that buyer in that price range. But if you were to price it right at $600, now you're catching the $600 to $620 crew as well. Then not only that, by pricing at that $599 number, you're at the top of their price range, so then they're going to be looking for some room for negotiation with that.
The people that are in the $580 to $600.
Exactly. But if you're in that $600 to $620 range as well, if you put it right on the nose, then you're at the lower price point from the $600 to $620 range. So they're thinking, hey, okay, we're seeing some value here, and they're willing to bring those solid offers, and they're seeing some value that's being brought to the table on the deal.
Before we go on to our third pricing mistake, I wanted to let you know you can get all the information about how to price your home, everything you need to know about selling your home in an ebook that we wrote, Tips on Selling Your House. You can get it below this video at the link. We're giving it to you as a gift for free, just complimentary. However, if you do not choose to read a book about how to sell your home and you're just like, I want somebody to do it for me, somebody that knows what they're doing, feel free to reach out. We would love to help you if you're in the Flower Mound area or in any of the DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth suburbs. If you're outside of our area, we do network with some great agents across the United States, and we would love to connect you with them. Now, let's go on to pricing mistake number 3.
The price mistake number 3 is price per square foot. Trying to determine your price, your overall price on price per square foot. I get it because, there's a lot of people that talk about that are well-meaning, and, you see some marketing materials that comes out that, hey, so-and-so sold for X price per square foot. The thing of it is that the real estate math works differently. As far as the smallest home in the neighborhood will always sell for the highest price per square foot than the largest. So if you're doing it solely upon price per square foot, there's a lot of different factors that go into that. What is the finish out? How different is that compared to everything else? Of course, then we just talked about the size. Is the house on a golf course lot? Does it have a swimming pool? What amenities and features does it have? It's not taking that into consideration. So if you're pricing it on that price per square foot, either you're overpricing or you're leaving a lot of money on the table for sure. The other part of this is the buyers, when they're searching online, they're not searching the price per square foot. They're looking at the overall price in their check boxes of their criteria that they're looking for. So when it comes to selling your home, just in general, you really have to put yourself in the buyer's shoes of what are they looking for and how to present your home. Because like I said earlier, your house becomes a commodity. It has to be able to provide a lot of value for that buyer. And also, when you yourself are looking for a house, how are you thinking about the house that you purchased?
Well, and also what plays into this is appraisers. If you draw a buyer in that does need to get a mortgage on the house, which most do, some are still paying cash, but that appraiser is not solely basing that off of price per square foot. As a matter of fact, we're actually signed up to take a class tomorrow with a group of professional appraisers teaching why they don't price based on price per square foot.
Yeah, because they're taking in all the considerations or amenities of the home, far as, the house size of square footage. Does it have a pool? Does it have outdoor kitchen? Does it have, sports court, or, all those different features? Okay, that's a little bit of a rule of a guideline, but that's not the end all be all by any stretch.
So these are just a few pricing mistakes to avoid when you go to sell your Flower Mound home. Hopefully this will help you to price your home to sell and not just sit.